Hey everybody, I'm Valiance, and welcome to my video on how to duo Crosus. In this video, I'm going to cover the most consistent method that we have found in order to duo the boss. As a slight disclaimer, I do want to say that this is not more efficient than doing a 3 or a 4-man, it is slightly less kills per hour. However, it is a pretty fun method and pretty laid back once you do get the hang of it, plus it is definitely easier to just find one friend to go with rather than trying to organize a 4-man team. So without further ado, let's get into all the different requirements needed to do this method. Throughout this video, I'll be referring to the two roles as the rusher and the prepper. It'll make more sense as we go along, but I just want to establish that now so that no one gets confused as I continue. So to start off with, the base requirements that I believe will make your life a little bit easier are going to be 90 plus in all of the stats required for Krosus, which would be woodcutting, fishing, mining, and hunter. I would also say to have the light within quest done so that you have access to crystal mask, as this can negate the slime attack as well as give you a couple of extra ticks from other mechanics such as the sticky fungus and the cloud attacks. Now for some optional requirements, the Artificer's Measure can greatly speed up your time at rebuilding the statue by about 10 to 15 seconds on average. The Earthen Furnace Core can replace your need for logs. Alternatively, you can just use protein logs if you have access to them. I do only play Iron Man, so I won't be showing the use of those in the encounter, but if you do have them, you can bring them. Bladed Dive will make it possible so that you can just completely skip the mushroom field, as if you stack Bladed Dive with a Surge, you can just make it across the entire 20 tiles that the mushroom field does take up. The Grasping Rune Pouch is a new item from Krosus. It can be made with an existing rune pouch, 2500 Croesus Flakes, and 15 magical thread. This will allow you to hold 4 runes in your rune pouch, which is the amount of runes needed for Crystal Mask. Alternatively, in a existing rune pouch, you could just make lava runes and use those instead, as the two of the runes are just earth and fire. Stat boosting familiars will greatly increase your gather rate on the different skilling plots, stuff like the Gargoyle, the Arctic Bear, and the Lava Titan. Personally, I haven't tried out the Beaver or the fishing familiars like the Granite Lobster, just because they do have very low stat boosts, so I just figure they might not be as worth it. And then stat boosting potions like an Extreme Hunter is great. This can almost guarantee a 1 cycle. I have been trying out some of the super potions that you can now make with the new stuff like the Timber Fungus and all for super woodcutting potions, but I haven't noticed much of an extra success rate, so I'm not sure how worth it they are. The Ring of Whispers from Sliske's Endgame will also help with your gather rate as it boosts gathering skills. Now let's get into the setups for the different roles. This will be the setup for the Rusher role as I previously called it. We'll be starting off with our Pickaxe of Earth and Song equipped, because we will be starting off at mining, but we'll be spending more time at fishing once we've completed it, so we have the Fury Shark outfit equipped for the 7% extra gather rate. We have the Fishing Cape equipped to get a bonus chance at an extra algae. This will be helpful as we do need to gather 35 algae here, but you still want to do it as fast as possible, so want that extra chance at getting more. The Grasping Rune Pouch is equipped to have all 4 runes for a Crystal Mask on us. The Enhanced Excalibur with Mobile, that way you can Bladed Dive and reduce the cooldown of Bladed Dive and Surge by 10 seconds. And then the Ring of Whispers, as it does give you an increased chance to gather. In the inventory we have the Crystal Hatchet and a Fishing Rod-O-Matic. If you have Tavia's Rod, you could bring that, but the Crystal Rod does not work here, so I wouldn't recommend that one. The Artificer's Measure is also in our inventory so that we can build statues slightly faster. 6 magic logs to burn away the sticky fungus. It should be enough for the run, unless you get very unlucky and you get hit all in a row for every single sticky fungus. But by the time you use them all up, you should be close to your partner and they can free you, so it shouldn't become an issue. We then have a Super Restore Flask for if you do get hit by any of the mechanics and have your stats drained. I have a Super Woodcutting Potion in my inventory as I've been testing it, but I haven't really noticed much of a difference since using it on the cores. And then an Extreme Hunter Potion, as if you and your partner both have one for a Hunter middle, it is pretty much a guaranteed 1 cycle on the first 2 statues that you build. Now for the prepper setup. Not much is going to change here except for the outfit that you are wearing. For this one, we do use the Nature Sentinel outfit. You could bring the Volcanic Trapper if you happen to have it, but either one will be fine. You'll be starting off at Hunter and going to Woodcutting afterwards, so it's more whatever you decide to do. The Rusher will also end up at Woodcutting at some point, so it's not imperative that you have the best gather rate, but it does help. Other than that, everything is similar. There's no other cape that would really help you in this scenario, so the fishing cape is still equipped. You could bring an invention cape to reduce your charge drain, but tools don't really drain it that fast anyway. But yeah, other than that, pretty much the exact same inventory. Now, one final thing before we get into the run is to be able to see when Crosus is doing his attack. As you can see, he grips his base and then he fires off this cloud. You want to be able to know that he's about to do his cloud attack. That way you can move away from the plot that you are harvesting so that you do not affect your run, as you're going to want to be on the enriched spawns as often as possible. So this will ensure that you have the cloud where you want it, completely out of the way, so that you can just continue doing what you're doing and not be affected by this mechanic. Now let's get into what our run really looks like. I'm going to have a basic assumption that you guys understand how the general fight goes, but I'll still try to explain things as they're happening. So we're going to start off on mining and watch for when the Crosus does his first cloud attack. He grips his base, so we walk back a couple steps, we bladed dive back, and we start to harvest again. The fairy ring is next, and I've found that after about 3 swings of the pickaxe, you want to step back to place the fairy ring behind you. The enriched is always going to cycle, but it is possible that it'll cycle to the exact same location, so you just want to make sure that you don't affect yourself from not being able to gather from the enriched. We're going to reduce 10 of the calcified fungus to rotten so we can rot the mole, and make sure our crystal mask was active for when the slime came up. We then reapply the crystal mask just in case we happen to get hit by a mechanic. The Crosus grips his sides, so we step away. As you can see, the enriched fungus did not move, even though it was on a cycle where it could have, so placing the cloud where we did was super beneficial. The purple bomb is next, so you want to make sure that you anticipate. It will stun you, so a freedom will work if you happen to get hit by it. Once we deplete the mole, we add the 10 rotten fungus, we gather the 1 more that we needed to go over to the Leviathan, we do a bladed dive surge stack across, put the 15 calcified fungus onto the statue, and start harvesting from the Leviathan after equipping our fishing rod O-matic. We see that the Crosus grips his sides, so we take a step back, put the cloud down, and go back to harvesting. Now with the algae, there are spots where you can harvest from the algae, multiple spots I should say. So we don't really move from the fairy ring, as we know that we can just step to this part and continue harvesting if it doesn't move, which it didn't. Our crystal mask is active as there is going to be a slime coming up next, and so we're just going to keep harvesting. Now the reason that we start off here, now that we have a little bit of downtime, is that the rusher starts at mining because we are going to skip building the Dagonoth statue, which requires 15 from mining and 15 from fishing. The rusher isn't going to worry about the extra that are needed for the Dagonoth statue, as in a duo you're only going to need to build the 3 statues that I show. And that's why we put the 15 calcified fungus down on this statue. The prepper is going to end up bringing 15 timber fungus over, so that statue will be ready to be built once they are done at the Iraq site. As you saw there, the sticky fungus was on me, so I cleared it, and there was an energy fungus at the middle. The way to know if an energy fungus is coming is if the last cloud attack was a blue attack. The blue will signify that you are going to have an energy fungus at the center, so you want to make sure you're ready for that, because you don't want to get stuck in the sticky fungus, as it can rot your good fungus and get you stuck for a little bit and start draining your skills. So now we just go back and we start harvesting from the algae again. This time you're going to need 20 rotten fungus and 15 fungal algae before moving on. So we're just going to continue harvesting from here, dodging the mechanics as we go. Pretty simple and straightforward. It is worth noting that after a current change, the mushrooms that you have to jump over do change every 2 to 3 cycles. So it's usually worth it to grab a couple extra if you have the inventory space, just to ensure that if it switches as you're clicking on it, if you rot 1 or 2, you're still safe. And with this last catch, the Leviathan goes down. We use 10 of our rotten fungus, and we go over to the mushrooms. As you can see, it changed right before we jumped over, so we know that we're safe and we're going to make it across, which is good because we only brought 15 this time. You get across, and you want to use your remaining 10 rotten fungus on the Dagannoth. In order to save a little bit of time, it's worthwhile for the prepper who starts at Hunter to not poison the Dagannoth, as that gives them more time to get over to the Araxite and start getting it down. As you can see, they already left, and we are just going to finish off where they left off. They have their 15 timber fungus, and they're going to the other statue, but we won't worry about that too much right now. Continue the same way that you were before on all the other ones. Start clearing the Araxite, get your 10 fungus as you will need to poison it, and continue to dodge the mechanics. We are going to clear this before we have the 15 needed for the third statue that we want to build. So as soon as we get the Araxite down, we're going to poison it and go to the little side plots that are here. I'm hovering over the base of my character as I know a sticky fungus is coming up. Just want to be ready to deal with it. And then the energy fungus is at the center, and we both go to handle it. In a duo, as long as both of you deal with the first 2 energy fungus that come up, you will receive maximum points for the 12 loot rolls, so after that you are good. There are ways to just skip the energy fungus. I don't recommend doing it after or before you do 2. If you have to skip one after the first 2, make sure you are communicating with your partner the whole time. If you need to only have one person on the fungus, you need to be there as it spawns to ensure that you have enough time to get it down. The prepper has already started on his statue, but in this scenario, my partner does not have the Artificer's Measure, so it's okay, as the times will line up. It's not exactly crucial that they line up. You can communicate when to pray at the same time. I only say it doesn't matter for the way it lines up, just because we're still going for another PB. So continue to dodge the mechanics as you are building the statue, and make sure that you have your 15 timber fungus. You may notice I only have 14 in my inventory, but that is because I communicated with my partner and he told me that he still has one in his inventory from when he put them on his current statue, so we will have enough. The statues we want to build are very calculated, I guess you could say. The way that this is set up, these are the 3 statues you're going to build. The one in the northeast at the Leviathan, which is where you will have put your calcified fungus. The prepper will finish it off with his timber fungus. This statue that I'm at, the southwest at the Araxite, the prepper will have put fungal spores here, and you'll need the algae from the Leviathan to complete it. As soon as both of your statues are completed, go ahead and pray and head to the core. If you have a potion that'll help your gather rate on the core, go ahead, because boosted stats over the level will actually help deal more damage. As you can see, the hit splats for me are 1560s, whereas my partners are 1420 or 1410. So it definitely helps with getting a little bit of extra damage. Also, during this phase, you'll notice that there will be 3 different lights coming from the core. Green lights, if you click again, will do an extra 1000 damage to the Crosus. White ones will do 500, but red ones will heal the Crosus for 2500. So just pay attention, make sure you're clicking on green and white, and avoid the red at all costs, as this can mess up a run if you happen to heal it too many times. We're about to run out of time, so we bail out to the southeast at the mole. I have the 15 timber fungus to rebuild this, and the prepper has 15 fungal spores to finish it up. So we're just going to go ahead and build it. This here will be a blue cloud, so we decide that we know an energy fungus is coming up, but we can build the statue fast enough to skip it. If the energy fungus is spawned, but you prey on the statue and reveal the core, it will just delete the energy fungus, so you don't have to worry about it. There you go. It spawns, but as the statue gets finished, they just disappear. Go back to the core, finish up your kill, and congratulations, you've done a duo Crosus kill. Now let's get into the perspective of the prepper and show the inverse side of what happens. Now for the prepper role, they're going to start off at Hunter. This perspective is also going to show my friend, whose setup is a little bit different as they don't have all the same unlocks. They do not have a rune pouch, they do not have bladed dive, and so it's just slightly different. They start off at Hunter, and like I've said before, they're not going to need to poison the Dagonoth. So the main goal here is going to be to get 15 fungal spores and put them into the little deposit box at the base of the statue, and then take another 15 over to the Araxite. Now on the Hunter spot, you do end up getting locked up a little bit between mechanics when you're trying to move, so you kind of want to make sure that when you're trying to move, it's kind of worth just spam clicking, because you want to ensure that you're able to get out of there. So there we go. He got the 15, he put them in the box, which he will need later, but we'll talk about that when we get there. He's now going to gather the 15 needed to take to the Araxite statue at the south west. He's now cleared the Dagonoth, and he's going to just gather his remaining 8 fungus before heading over. And he grabs a couple of extra, since he won't be able to bladed dive through here, so we can see how to deal with it. The main way to deal with this is to make sure that you are just avoiding actually walking on the mushrooms. You can also surge at a certain point. He miscalculated his surge, but only one rotted, and that's why we grab extras. Now that the fungal spores are on the southwest statue, he's going to begin harvesting from the Araxite to get the 15 timber that he needs. This timber that he'll be taking, he only needs 15 to just take to the northeast statue. And there we go, another energy fungus, so it's time to clear that. But yeah, the statues need 15, so he's just going to gather the 15 while also getting the Araxite down to a certain point where you'll kind of work it out that you can leave at certain points or just where you need to get it to. So he's just going to start working on the Araxite, as I, at this point, will be working on the algae. Any extras that the prepper does end up with, you want to make sure you put them in the box and don't rot them. The prepper won't be rotting any of the plots, and you want to just make sure that you can put as many extra timber in the box as possible. So he fills up his inventory, and he goes ahead and deposits all of them into the box. Now he's keeping an eye on how long until the Leviathan is down, as well as paying attention to not getting the Araxite too low to give us the time to go ahead and do this properly, since he will need to make an extra run after he gets to the Leviathan. After realizing how close the Araxite is to being done, He decides to bail because he knows I'm coming soon, and he starts to head through the mushroom field with a bunch of extra timber fungus. You can just withdraw all the ones that you had in the box, and it'll just leave whatever you can't fit in there for the rusher to take to get a head start on what they need to do. Again, no bladed dive, so we're just going to walk through the mushroom field. He realizes from there he can surge, so he just skips a little bit of it. Going to put the 15 timber fungus down onto the statue and start headed over back to Hunter to grab the fungal spores. Those fungal spores are going to be needed for the third statue, as we previously talked about. So before he starts building the statue, he just wants to go ahead and grab these, drop some of the timber fungus to make room, just to make sure that if he does mess up, he has the extra fungal spores from when he deposited them. Now just going to hop right back through the mushroom field and head to the statue. The energy fungus spawned while he was jumping through, but you do have enough time, so there we go. So after that's cleared, he's just going to go ahead and begin restoring the statue. And from here, it's basically the same as before, just like with the rusher. You're going to build the statue, head to the center, pot if you have any pots that correlate with the core that has been exposed, click on the green and white lights, avoid the red one, bail out to the southeast right as it's about to close back up, build the third statue, go back, finish off the kill. And that's going to wrap up the Duo Croesus guide. I do hope this helps, and I hope that some people who watch this try it out and see how much fun a Duo Croesus run can really be. It can be a little weird to get the hang of since it is very different from a 3 or a 4 man, but I find that it is very enjoyable and that you will have a lot of fun doing it. I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to see any more guides from me in the future, I would be glad to make them. Just leave a comment. Until next time, take it easy, guys.